Hello everyone. Today we will be discussing a few approaches to translation, as well as we'll be looking at a few examples to illustrate the theory from the recently translated short story Prakasham Parathunna Oru Penkutty by T. Padmanabhan. Now, as we know that there are different types and approaches to translation, especially when it comes to the practice of translation and translating an Indian language to a European language where the sentence structure greatly varies. Formal translations do not always work to convey the social connotations that is intended by the author. Now, I would not completely dismiss the use of formal translation in the story, but I would say that in order to convey the cultural, social, linguistic, and semantic aspects of speech to English language, we sometimes need to use a functional approach to language. Now, quoting from the introduction to Oxford Guide to Translation, it says, and I quote, cross-cultural communication involves translation. Translation implies cross-cultural communication, and translation is the principal arena in which differences may be explored, appreciated, and interpreted or understood. Now, according to translational hermeneutics, the translator has to consider intellectual, social, and individual aspects of identity and at the same time combine intuition with reflection in the mediating process. So, therefore, there is a holistic approach to the text and it is never a word to word translation. Similarly, I have also approached the text which was written originally in Malayalam, and my aim was to convey the maximum cultural and lexical connotation which is true to the culture and context of the source text. And so this is where functional translation comes in handy. So one such example from the translation is the part where the author says, and I quote, ആഹ്ലാദിക്കാൻ മാത്രം പിറന്ന ഭാഗ്യശാലികൾ ആഹ്ലാദം എനിക്ക് ചിരി വന്നു. Now, if you formally translate this word ahladam, how it is used in the text here, it would be if it would be an exaggerated joy or a kind of celebration, right? But when to an English reader, an exaggerated joy or would not make the same sense as it is conveyed to the Malayalam reader. For a Malayalam reader, ahlada means excessive joy as well as the trivial nature which is accompanied by it, which is shown by youth, and it is a typical characteristic of young people, especially when they don't have anything to worry about. So, hence, using joy or celebration here would never suffice, and that is the reason why I have translated it as make merry. Now, another instance where functional translation proved useful in translating is the usage of pavam. Pavam, we use it in every Malayalam sentence here and there, but if it is formally translated, it just means poor. But here we have to, in order to convey the full cultural and the semantic aspect of it, we need to convey it as poor thing. Untranslatability. Now, untranslatability is something that it is inevitable in any source, any translation. Now, as Popovic would point out, the two types of untranslatability, namely the linguistic untranslatability and cultural untranslatability. He describes a situation where linguistic elements of the original cannot be replaced by adequately structural, linear, functional, or in semantic terms due to a lack of denotation or connotative words. So this is very similar to Catford's theory of cultural untranslatability, which again says that one has to take into account the social and the cultural aspects while translating. Now, I would like to show a few instances where I encountered untranslatability and had to retain some expressions in Malayalam so as to convey the essence of conversations. For example, here we have expressions like I, shabash, chandare jare jare, and that is a lyric of the song that the girl sings. Now, for some other cultural connotative usages, I have retained the same word itself, transliterated it, and provided footnotes at the end of the story. Words like dhavani or pidi that cannot be really translated because these words play a significant role in the story. Another interesting example is the use of the word cinema, right? Cinema, again, which is transliterated in Malayalam. I have retained the same word and not replaced it with the more formal usage of the film or going to the movies. I felt like changing the word to film or movies would distort the cultural aspect and the linguistic message that the author wishes to convey. The word cinema being used by the story's protagonist every time in his monologues, we would relate more towards him. Now, translating that would remove the foreign reader much more farther than the native reader. Now, that would violate one rule of translation. Now, talking about the structure of the story, the structure of the story is divided, the story entirely is divided into very small, short paragraphs. And I have tried my maximum to retain the exact same sentence as well as the paragraph structure and follow the same punctuations. Talking about the title of the short story, the title of the translation was kind of a bit tricky, as I wasn't that satisfied with the formal translation of it, because the word oru here, and formally translating it, it would be translated to the article a. But here the story is talking about one particular girl, and that cannot be some a girl, but here it is the particular girl who emanated light to those around her. So I felt like translating it as, and I quote, the girl who emanates light would better suit the story. With that being said, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you.